Hi, I'm Ricky. Today we are on the 6th episode of the Endless Runner series. In this episode, we'll implement a shop system and we'll make some basic UI to sustain it. This is gonna be a very long episode, so I'm gonna divide it in 3 parts. You can of course skip to the part that you want with the timestamps that I'm putting right here. So, in the first part, we're gonna make the UI, nothing too complicated. I'm gonna be doing it with a time-lapse with some music in the background, and I'm gonna do a recap once I'm done. Then for the second part, we're gonna make a transition from the shop to the game, so that the game doesn't start until we leave the shop. And then lastly, we make the actual logic. So we make the scripts that handle the buy system and update the UI based on our goals and our shop ideas. And we also, of course, make it so that when we buy an item, something happens. Okay, so we start with the UI. You can, of course, slow down the video if you want to see everything I do step by step. But remember that with the recap, I'm gonna explain everything, so don't worry. And I'm gonna see you when I'm done. Let's go! Okay, and we are done here. Of course, this is a very basic setup. I've only put the things that we need right now, and of course we can make it look better in the future. This is a nice base because from here we can add more menus, more buttons, more items, more animations and whatnot. Okay, so let's do a recap of what I've done. Okay, so first thing I did was make a new panel called shop panel, very simple with the orange color. And I'm putting a lot of line separators in here because canvases can get pretty messy pretty quickly. Okay, and inside this shop panel, first we have another panel, which is the top panel. And in here we just have a text, which is static, doesn't do anything. And a current money text, which we will actually be changing through script. Current money text is set to have the anchor at the bottom, while the shop text is set to have the anchor at the top, and it's actually not centered right now. Okay, better. While the top panel itself is set to stretch on all corners of the screen. And the same goes for our shop panel. Okay, so next let's see the bot panel, which is very similar, so it stretches on all four corners, but inside we have two buttons, and buttons are different to stretch. First, I have a debug add money button, which we'll be using to add money manually to our game. Of course, this is just for debugging, and it's not gonna be on the finished product. And for the stretch, I've used the corner on the down left and top left. And then for the right, I try to give it a bit of an edge to the other button, so when it stretches, it doesn't overlap with the other button. For the play button, basically the same, but it's in the center. And then lastly, we have our shop items. For now, I only made one, which is this one right here. I started by making a panel, which is the one in the red, and I've set the stretch to be a custom point. In this case, I never want our item to go over the other panel, so I put the anchors here, and then for the one in the down right, I put it exactly in the middle. Inside this shop panel, we have an image, which has anchor points set to the top and the middle, an item named text, which has anchor points that go from the image at the top to the bottom button, and then we have the buy button, which has anchor points set to its own corners. And lastly, inside this button, we have two texts. The buy text, which is set to the left, and the price text, which is set to the right. They are both set to stretch on all four corners of the button. I'm just using these values right here to put them at the left rather than the right. Remember that you can always test the anchor points and stretch points by using this window right here. You open the window and here you select free aspect, and here you can test how the game is gonna look like on different devices. So this is what on my Samsung 360 725 would look like, and if I stretch it a bit, you can see that the UI tries to adjust. It's not perfect, but it will do. Let's go back to our Samsung. Okay, and I think we're done here. I'm actually recording this part of the episode for last because I lost the footage. So you're gonna see some different colors, but it's exact same thing. Good. Okay, and I think we're done here, so let's go to the next part. Okay, so now let's add a bit of logic so that we can play when we press this button, and before then the boat won't move. So let's go in our start game manager, and in here we want to make this function, the start game function, to be public. This way we can access it through the button. And because we are using the button now, we don't actually need this, so let's delete that. And in Unity, in our play button, we're just gonna add an event. We drag in our game manager, and we select the start game manager, and we say start game. We also want to disable or shop when we play, so let's add another event. And we're gonna put the shop panel itself, and we say game object set active false. If you didn't know about this, you can actually use predetermined Unity function for an object without actually accessing a script, which is really useful for simple things like this, like deactivating an object. Okay, and this does work, but there's a problem. Our boat will keep moving before we actually play. Let's test this, and let me move the shop panel a bit. As you can see, I can actually move my boat even if we haven't started the game yet. So let's close this, and let's go in our boat movement script. Okay, and in here we want to make it so we can't move unless we are told so. Let's make a new value, and make a private bool can move. And then in our fixed update, we'll just say if can move is false, return. So by default, our can move is false, so we can't do anything. And then we want to make a new function, and we'll call it start script. And we're gonna say can move equals true. Then we go to our start game manager, and in here we just add another start script function. To do that, we actually need a reference to our boat movement script, so we need to add a singleton. Okay, so let's add the start script. Okay, so if we move our shop, if we try to move, the boat doesn't move, but if we press play, the boat can now move and we start the game. Very good. Okay, so that was it for the transition, and let's go to the next part. Okay, so now we want to make the actual shop item script. Okay, so let's select our slot panel and let's make a new script, and I'm just gonna call it shop item. And in here we want to do three things. We want all the values that are needed to make the item, a function to actually buy the item, and another function to update the UI. So let's start by linking the text. Okay, and now let's add the values of the item themselves. So we want an item name, an item price, an item max level, and the type of the item. Okay, so let's add these things. Okay, and for the item type, we want to make a new enum, and in this enum, we're gonna save all the items that we want to make in the game. Public enum, and we're gonna call it shop items. And in here, we want to fill in all the items that we want to make. So for first item, I'm gonna make a stronger horse. That means our boat will run faster. So let's write stronger horse. And I'm just gonna add a placeholder for the second item. And now we want to make an instance of this shop item. So we just say public shop items item type. And I'm gonna add some default values. And that's it. Item level doesn't need to be serialized, but just for debugging, we'll keep it like that. Now let's go to Unity. And now we have all these very nice values, which are actually kinda messy. So let's go back to our C# script. And let's add some headers. Okay, and a header, if you don't know, is just an extra attribute that you can add to your inspector to make things a bit more clear. The only rule is that after the header, you have to put a value. So in this case, after the header text, have the value of type UGUI. But in this case, after the header values, I don't have an actual value here, I have an enum. And an enum is a type of values or a data type, it's not a value itself. So if you just change this in this, it's gonna be okay. And if you go to Unity, as you can see now, it's a bit clearer. We have a header here and here that it's dividing the things that we have in our script. Okay, so let's link the text. So for item name text, we put this, and item price text. For item type, we keep stronger horse. And for the item name, I'm also gonna write stronger horse. Now we want to make a function that on start, it's gonna update the UI of the item to be the same of the values that we have here. So let's go to our C# script and let's make a new function. Okay, and we're gonna call this on awake. And your update item UI, we just want to use this value and put them in here. So first thing, let's get our item name text. And we set the text to be equal to the level and our name. So we say level plus item level plus space plus item name. Very similarly for our price text. Okay, and let's make it so that if the item level is at the max, we actually change the text to be something different. So we say item name text dot text equals max level, and instead of saying the item level, we just say the name, so item name, and we put this in an if. We say if item level is equal to item level max. Okay, and let's also make the price to be 0 if the level is at the max. Okay, let's try this. If we hit play, the UI indeed changes. Very good. Now for the second function, we're gonna make the buy item function. So we write a public void buy item. And of course, we want to buy the item only if we have enough money and if the item level is less than the max. So we say if item level minor than item level max, and in here we have to get the amount of money of our player. But right now we don't have a way to do that, so let's add it. Let's go to our player money script, and in here, as you can see, our current money is set to private. And we actually want to keep it private. A value as important as money in our game, it's better if we always keep it private and we change it only through functions. We could add properties to it, which is another matter we haven't faced yet. If you don't know what a property is, ignore just what I said. Okay, so let's make a new function and just say public int return current money. And just say return current money. Simple and perfect. Let's go back to our shop item, and in here we say player money dot instance dot return current money major then item price. Actually major or equal. Okay, and in here we actually buy the item. So we say item level plus plus and player money dot instance dot add money minus item price. And finally we update our UI. Okay, so this works if we play it on one playthrough. But we actually want to save these changes. We have to use PlayerPrefs. So first, let's save the amount of money. We don't just want to remove some money, we also want to save it. So let's go to our player money script, and in here we have this function that adds money and nothing else. Now, we could just add a PlayerPref in here to save money, but we are using this function also in-game whenever we collect a booty. And the thing is, PlayerPrefs are actually heavy on the machine, so it's better not to use them all the time. When we collect a booty, we add money to current money. And then when we finish the game, we use PlayerPref, and it works just fine. While we are in the shop though, we can just use PlayerPrefs whenever we want, because we don't really care about perfect performance. So let's make a new function, and I'm just gonna duplicate this one. And I'm gonna call it add money and save. And with this line right here, whenever we call this function, we don't only add money, but we also save the money that we made, which is what we want to do in our shop. So let's go back to our shop item. And in here, instead of using add money, we use add money and save. Now for our item level, we also want to save this in a PlayerPref. So we make a new line and we say PlayerPrefs set int. And in here we have to say of what item we are actually saving the level. Instead of making a new string for each item, we use the enum. So we use this value in here to know what item we are currently on, and then we are using that type to act as a string for our PlayerPrefs. So in here we say item type dot to string, because it's an enum, and then we'll give it our item level. Perfect. Now we want to access this value whenever we update our UI. So in here we just say item level equals PlayerPrefs get int item type dot to string. Okay, and this is almost done. Let's test it first in Unity. And before we do any of that stuff, I'm gonna clear PlayerPrefs for safety reasons. And I'm also gonna link the buy button to our function. So in here, I'm just gonna add an event, select the panel, shop item, buy item. Okay, so let's test this. Okay, so level is set to 0, the item right, 10 gold is the price. And I don't have any money, of course, so I'm just gonna add some by the inspector. And if you press the button, the level increases by 1 and our money also decreases. If you go to the max level, which is 5, the text changes, but as you can see our money right now is 9949. If you close and play again, the text updates correctly and our money is also updated. Very cool. Okay, so now we have saved a PlayerPrefs that indicates the money that we have and the level of the item. What we can actually do is read the item level PlayerPref and use it whenever we want. So let's go to our boat movement script, and in here we go to our start script function that I wrote earlier, and we read the item level value of our stronger oars item. We'll just say int stronger oars level equals PlayerPrefs get int, and in here to access our items we'll use the enum in our shop item class. So first we access the shop item class, then we say shop items, and then we say what item we want to access. So in this case, stronger oars. This is an enum, so we have to set it to string, and we are done. So now we have a value that holds the level of our item, and then we'll say if our item level is major than 0, will increase our boat movement speed. So we can say boat speed plus equals stronger horse level times 50. Okay, let's try that in Unity. As you can see, our boat player has the movement of 250, but if we hit play, our stronger horse is set to max level, and when we start the game, our boat speed goes to 500. And as you can see, we're actually faster now than before. If I delete PlayerPrefs and play again, our boat speed is just gonna stay at 250 and we are slower. Okay, so last two things, let's make it so that our gold in here updates to our current money, and let's make a debug add money function. So let's make a new script, and I'm gonna call it shop manager, and in here we want a reference to our current money text. And when we start the game, and whenever we change our money, we want to update that text. So let's make a new function. Okay, and inside our update money in shop UI, we'll call our money shop text. And we'll set it to our current money of our player. Plus gold. Okay, and now we could call this function on awake, but that would actually be a problem. Because in our player money script, we are setting our current money on the awake method. If in our shop manager, we also call this function on the awake method, we could add overlapping issues. To fix that, instead of using the awake function, we just use the start function, because the start function is called after awake. So let's add our function. And we also want to call this function whenever we change money, so let's make a singleton of our shop manager. And let's also make this function public, because we're gonna call it from other scripts. Okay, so let's go in our shop item. And when we update the item UI, let's also update shop UI. So we'll go with shop manager, instance, update money in shop UI. And instead of adding our shop manager script to our game manager, let's actually make a new empty object. I'm doing so because our shop and our game are two completely different states that don't really interact with each other. So it's a good idea to make a new object. Okay, so let's add our shop manager script. And let's link our text. Let's try. And as you can see, when I press play, our gold updates to our current value, which is 89. If I buy the item for 10 gold, my current money goes to 79, and the shop text also goes to 79. If I close and start again, it updates automatically. Okay, and last thing, let's make this add money function. So let's go to our shop manager. And in here we make a new public void function, and I'm gonna call it debug add money. In here it's really simple, we just use the add money and save function. Very good. We also want to update our UI when we add money, so we also call the update money in shop UI. Okay, so let's select our button, let's add a new event, and I'm just gonna drop our shop manager, select it and say debug add money. Let's test this. And as you can see, if I add money, it adds 1000 gold to our shop, and it also updates the UI. If you select our boat player, you can see that our current money is also increasing. And if we stop and play again, it's still there. Okay, so that's it for this episode. I think we have done a lot of things. I think it's been a very long and intense episode. And I think that with this newfound knowledge, you can do a lot of things. And if you want to know how the finished game will look like, you can actually check my game, which is already finished. It's on the Play Store. It's called BoatVenture. If you have any doubts about the code or the game or anything, tell me in the comments. In the next episode, we're gonna see how to make a pause and how to add audio to our game. Remember to hit like and subscribe if you want more of this content. Alright, see you in the next video.